What's going on, everybody? Pete with Auto Repair Tips. In this video I got an 18 Hyundai Tucson, whatever this kind of car is. Lady was driving along and at first she developed a misfire, and while she was driving the vehicle it would start shaking real bad on her. She never did anything with it. She continued to drive it like that. And what was happening was the number 2 coil was giving out, and by it doing that, it was loading that cylinder with fuel. So she was driving like that for a while, and time went on, and then she started losing power. So now she has a misfire on the number 2 cylinder, and the car is losing power. It's like almost like a bad transmission. You give it the gas and don't want to go anywhere. So what I did was I took the car for a test drive, and I confirmed her complaint: no power and a misfire. At first I wasn't going to make a video on this, so I didn't take you guys along for the ride. But I guess I should have, but I will take you along for the ride when it's completed. I got the car back in, got it up here, and I got it hooked up to the scope. And what I did was I hooked my transducer up to it. And let me show you how I hooked this up. Let's say you were taking a compression on a cylinder. You take that hose, you take the Schrader valve out, and you hook it to your transducer. You take the cool pack out, you disable the fuel, you hook up your compression hose. It's to your fitting right here. This is your transducer. I've got a 500 PSI transducer going over to my ignition scope. Once you got everything set up, you start the car and you let it run. You take a screenshot of what's going on. If you look right here, I'm trying to get it focused in best I can so you guys can see it. This is 0. That's 0 right here. This is your exhaust stroke right here. And if you look at it, that exhaust stroke is well above 0. And 0 is atmospheric pressure. So, you know, it's outside. So your exhaust, there should be no pressure at all in the exhaust. It should just flow right on out. If you have a back buildup inside the cylinder, that's coming probably from that catalytic converter. So if you got a scope, this is an easy test to do to check that catalytic converter. Again, take a look at it. You can see that the exhaust stroke is well above 0, and that 0 is like pressure outside. It should be 0. It's atmospheric pressure. I'm definitely tongue-tied today. These words are not coming out. So what we're going to do is we're going to price out a cat and a coil pack. And you see I have it on the number 1 cylinder. Number 2 cylinder is the problem cylinder. So what I did was I took a reading on that cylinder and I took a reading on the number 1 cylinder just to have a comparison of 2 cylinders. And both cylinders are exactly the same. But the coil pack I'll be replacing will be the number 2 cylinder, because that is the one with the code in the car. So after running the codes, I found the P0420, the catalytic system efficiency below threshold. That's on bank 1. Then I came up with a random misfire 300. And the 302 basically tells you what cylinder it is. 302 would be your 2 cylinder. 303 would be your 3 cylinder. So these are the codes we're going with. And I did confirm that the coil pack was bad on the number 2 cylinder, so we're definitely going to go with the coil pack. And to do that, what I did was I switched out the number 1 and the number 2 cylinders, and the misfire went to the number 1 cylinder. That was the easiest way to do it on this car. Like I said earlier, I wish I had brought you guys along for the initial test ride, but you'll get the final ride to see how it does when we're done. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and price out these parts to the customer and see what she wants to do. Catch you in a bit. So I felt bad not being able to show you the before. It's got a check engine light on now. That's simply because when I did my running compression test, I had a coil disabled, and that's what that code is right there. But we'll clear all that later. But let me show you what we got. All right, driving along 30 miles an hour, 2,000 RPMs. It's shifting fine. You can see it going up and down in the tachometer. Now watch when I go to floor it. I am floored. And I can hear the engine is just like now starting to spit and backfire through the intake. But you can see with it floored, I'll do it again. I'm not even getting over 30 miles an hour, not even getting 3,500 RPMs hardly. And I can hear it on the engine. You can hear it. It almost feels like a transmission, but it's not a transmission. When you have a clogged system, that's what it does. It backs up and clogs it, doesn't let it breathe correctly. You're not, you're breathing in, but you're not exhausting out. So that's kind of what happens when you have an exhaust that's clogged. You're driving along, it almost feels like a transmission. You give it the gas and it just doesn't want to go anywhere. You're taking plenty of air in, it's just not going out through the exhaust. And what happens is you'll hear your engine, you'll almost hear it sometimes, you'll hear it pop in the intake, and what that's doing is that's exhausting in the intake you're hearing. So you're not really hearing a misfire, you're hearing the exhaust coming back up into the intake. Like I said, I'm glad I put it back together and took it for a ride so you guys could see what it was doing. When we get it off, matter of fact, after I got my test drive, it's even starting to smell like an egg almost. And like I say, those are things to look for. All right, as soon as this part gets here, I called and ordered them. I'm getting them from Napa, but they said it's going to be a day out. So that was another reason why I said, let me stick it back together, drive the car, because I had time to do it. If the parts are going to be any sooner than that, I probably wouldn't have put it back together. But like I said, being the parts are going to be a day out, it just made it easier for me to show you guys what was going on. So as soon as those parts get here, we'll get them on the car, go for our test drive, and I'll show you the difference. All right, we just got the parts in. The plugs are at XP5702. The coil pack is a GN 1063311B1. Part number to the catalytic converter is a 21145. So it comes in two separate pieces right about here, and it comes all the way to right about here. Then the second half will come in from right here and join it right along here. All right, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and get some nut buster on it and let it soak in for a minute, then we'll get it apart. All right, first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and take this O2 sensor out. I'm gonna try and take it out without unplugging it. Again, I'm gonna try to take it out without unplugging it, but you never know how that goes, right? Try to do the shortcut. Hope it works. Sweet. So the nuts on the front and the back are all 19s. Makes it easier that way. I think we're gonna need some heat. Damn, I almost burnt my rubber gloves. That's one thing about using a metal cart, and an old cart too at that. You put a hot bolt in there, and you don't care how hot it is, you can't hurt crap. I used to have those plastic carts, but I swear to you, every time I use one of them things, I was always melting it somehow. Don't ask me how. All right, it's got one rubber grommet we gotta pop off right here. There it is. All right, bring it on down. What the hell? All right, get it. Lord. Look it. Bingo. So the new kit is going to come with new gaskets. Make sure you use them. Definitely don't reuse the old ones. The rubber grommet, you're going to have to take off the old one and reuse that. And I had somebody comment one of my last videos and they said I abuse my knives. Well, you know what? It's a work knife. It's gonna get abused. Get over it. Ooh, that's hot, hot. Boom, chugga-lugga. One thing about when you use a torch, the bolts don't cool down fast enough for me. Come on, get on there. Whew. Sometimes you gotta use a little bit of love tap on it. If you don't wanna go on there all the way, line it up, just on the edge, get a little socket. Make sure you got it going the right way. Tap it on. Just like that. That ain't fitting very well. That looks like shit on there. Holy crapola. So one thing I noticed just now is this goes this way. And if you look, that whole damn thing is off, bitch. So let me take a second and kind of tell you what's going on. This is the aftermarket pipe. At first, I just thought it was a poor design, not built correctly. But what the real problem is, when I called up and I ordered for all-wheel drive because this has all-wheel drive on it. Drive axles in the rear and on the front. That right there is for just a two-wheel drive. So when they made that pipe, it goes this way into it. This is the old one right here that's on it. And as you can see, it bends out to the right. The aftermarket one bends to the left. So what we're going to do is, because really all I need is a catalytic converter. That's the only thing that is clogged in this car. So what I'm going to do is take this half of this pipe and this half of this pipe, and I'll cut it somewhere along here in the straight part and make it work. The clamp I'll use is, so I don't have to butt weld it, is a solid clamp like this. It goes around the car and clamps, and it's a solid fit. I have had real good luck with this in the past. We'll give it a shot and see if it works on this car. If it doesn't work, what I'll do, the aftermarket pipe, we're not going to use this half. I'll cut it right here, and I'll take this sleeve and we'll put it right in there. But the first thing I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut it and try to use that clamp and see if it works. So let's get cutting. The two straightest points are going to be right here and right about here. And I believe we can make it work right here. So I'm going to start with cutting the old one first. And we're going to go right about here. Good guess. So, man, I think we're gonna be all right. I'm gonna clean this end up just a little bit so it's a little bit flusher. So we had a volleyball tournament this weekend in Ocean City, Maryland. The girls did a good job. I'm real proud of them. We didn't take first in this tournament, but they ended up taking 7th place out of 49 teams, I think it was, 46 teams, I can't really remember. But they did a real nice job. I was real pleased with the girls. So what we'll do is, I'm gonna go ahead and get the clamp on here, and I'll keep it at a loose connection for right this minute. Then I'm gonna tighten up the front and tighten up the rear, and it's gonna separate it just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and tighten the clamp up. I've had real good luck with these clamps in the past. They're just, they're a good product to work with, they really are. Now what I usually do is on these clamps, when I'm all done, come on, hold on a second. What I usually do with these clamps when I'm all done and it's all tight and everything is finished, I'll put a tack weld on each side just to make sure that clamp doesn't slide around. All right, let's get the front and rear tight and get this thing done. All right, these clamps, the nut and bolts are a 14. And you can see when you clamp it, she's pretty tight. A little bit loose, a little bit. Pretty tight, pretty tight. So a little trick when you're putting O2 sensors on, if you don't unclamp it, the cord will twist on you. So if you're gonna tighten it, take it and go counterclockwise 3 or 4 turns, then put it on. And then when you go to tighten it up, you are in like Flynn because she'll be almost perfect. Again, I said almost perfect. Couldn't get any better than that if I wanted to. All right, checking it for leaks. No air leaks here. Solid. Nothing around the O2. Clamp feels good. Clamp feels good. Got a little one right here. We need to suck that up some more. So if this doesn't pull up tight enough, what I'll end up having to do is take it off and go in with a nut and bolt. Because I think this is the one I had to put the heat on. I can't remember. No. That did it. So looking at service data, the gap on these plugs are about 40 thousandths. 39.4 to 43. So we're gonna go at 40 thousandths across the board. I always take it and gap all mine off the get-go, and that way all I gotta do is install them. And remember, for the number 2 coil pack, I did get a new one because it was misfiring. And it's probably, like I said earlier, probably would jack up that daggone catalytic converter, because you gotta figure if it ain't firing, you're dumping raw gas into the system there, and that is not a good thing. We'll get this last plug in and we will go for our test drive. So the first thing I'm gonna do is let's go ahead and clear all the codes. Then we'll hit our test drive. This way, if something does pop on, we'll know it's a fresh code. Let's see, it's clear codes. Are you sure? Yes. Codes are gone. Hit continue. Let's go to data. While we're driving, we'll just keep an eye on this. Alright, so if you kind of remember before when I gave it the gas, she didn't go anywhere. Alright, we are floored. 5,000 RPMs, and we are getting up there in speed. 60 miles an hour, looking good. No check engine lights. Nice and smooth at idle. Don't feel any misfires. Alright, that's it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Catch you later.